This is my journal entry 1 on misconceptions for week 1. Making learning connections by engaging student culture. The misconceptions we talked about were one size fits all, specially adapted instruction in English is just good teaching, effective instruction means nonverbal teaching, and exposure and immersion are the answer. But as you can see by the graphic to the right, sometimes being in the middle of everything doesn't mean you feel connected. So I'm focusing on the exposure and immersion are the answer. I believe these ideas have been buzzwords in the teaching realm, so they seem like the viable approach to teaching English language learners. While there is some truth to this statement, there is a key element left out, and that is connection. We've probably all been in a situation where we had to figure it out by observing and getting our hands dirty, so to speak. But how much more quickly can we accomplish a task when someone helps us or shows interest in what we're trying to accomplish? So I had a student recently who was brought into our school, and he had some special needs that were unique to what our school was accommodating of, and they were willing to have the student come in. They asked me if I would teach, and it became evident after time that the student entered the classroom after having been in a fully play-based situation, just completely overwhelmed, dysregulated, and it was very obvious that the school's expectation, which was socialization, and the family's expectation, which was academic growth, were not in alignment. So I quickly pumped the brakes on the academic endeavors and encouraged all the constituents to focus on regulation. So comfortability with school, appropriate responses to stimuli, particularly classmates, and changing the learning space to help him feel more comfortable. So part of the process was spending some one-on-one time engaging in preferred activities. And once that relationship was established, the child's learning styles and baseline capabilities began to emerge, and we began to experience a boom in social, emotional, and academic growth. So I definitely learned that there is a distinction between inclusion and immersion. So by focusing on ways to be included, the other aspects of the learning constructs began to fall into place. So connection was the key to beginning the process. So how can I be a modicum for change in this regard? Well, after having read the article on the 5 most common challenges ESL learners face, it made me think about the fact that the author said that students often feel a sense of disconnect with traditional learning situations. So finding a connection through something that the students find interesting can be a compelling touch point for many learners. I read a book years ago called Cold Tangerines, and the author speaks of her experience learning a second language through pragmatic but creative means. Her instructor used non-sequitur methods like setting up an airport ticket counter, having a little transportation hub, a hotel desk, a cafe, and a tourist attraction so that the students could implement and respond to common phrases of inquiry as if traveling in that country, as well as some conversational phrases. The language was presented in print as well as through oral communication. So after experiencing this immersive exercise, the students were more receptive to learning the grammar and structure of the language as they advanced. So what is the application for me in regard to that then? Well, slow down and observe the students. Be creative. Brainstorm and collaborate with peers to come up with engaging activities and lessons. Meld connection into exposure and immersion for reinforcement and encouragement. Provide opportunity to practice and encourage first language and second language usage to build confidence and value for those students. So how can we connect creatively as a class? Well, it makes me think of the sound of music, right? Let's start at the very beginning and do an all about me activity, right? Probably the first day of school. So I would start with a get to know you activity that's nonverbal, art-based, something like this cute little shoe here where they would draw components that would express who they are. Turn that into playing a four corners game with similar objects from the activity. So they would just have to either look for a visual or listen for the word or follow a student that they've already connected with into that corner. Do a simple writing about favorite part of shoe. So whatever part they were most compelled by that they think represents them. And I could use word cards that have pictures with the word to help them with some of those language pieces. Then just do a one-on-one check-in for understanding to make sure they're understanding, feeling comfortable, and starting to develop that confidence even on day one. And then give a chance to share, not force, but give them the chance to share and encourage use of their first language while saying the English terms as appropriate to go along with. For example, if they had a dog and they were speaking French, you need to say chien, or if it was Spanish, to say perro. Oh, dog, yes, okay. So those would be the connections I would make to start to develop that relationship through this simple activity with myself and their classmates. So in summary, connection is going to be a key goal in my pedagogy. In aiming to build positive class culture, it will be a goal to incorporate elements of student culture, including encouragement of first language usage while building rapport and confidence. I'll slow down and observe the students, infuse creativity into each day, and brainstorm and collaborate with my peers to come up with engaging activities and lessons. And hopefully these practices will meld connection into exposure and immersion for reinforcement and encouragement, which should lead to the quote-unquote just good teaching.